Welcome to Empowering Women in Transit and Happy Women's History Month. This is our third event celebrating Women's History Month. I'd like to take this opportunity to let you know we have two more events lined up before we end this amazing month honoring us, women. Men's Health on the 25th and our grand finale event celebrating you and the women that you have selected on March 30th. Without further delay, let's kickstart this amazing event with our EWT leader, Greta Gibson. Go for it.
Hi, Sapna, and thank you for the wonderful introduction and kickoff to our women's wellness discussion. I would also like to thank everyone who's joining us today, as I'm proud to introduce you to Dr. Noor Ali, a mother, wife, doctor, researcher, entrepreneur, and a champion of women in science. Dr. Noor Ali is a Bangladeshi-American medical doctor and surgeon raised in Queens, New York. She's an alumna of the Bronx High School of Science with medical education and training abroad and wide international public health experience. She has spent years treating some of the rarest tropical diseases in villages with no running water and unreliable electricity for patients in need of medical care in rural Bangladesh. Dr. Noor has founded award-winning community health projects celebrated by the United Nations. And in 2014, she received the UN Global Summit Conference Award for her work in maternal wellness and women's reproductive medicine. Her latest research endeavor continues to focus on women's reproductive health and shines light on infertility experiences in women pursuing higher education. Dr. Noor currently lives in Tampa, Florida with her husband and son and runs her own nationally growing health insurance agency. She provides services for entrepreneurs and employees who are facing the high costs of COBRA to cover their healthcare needs. Her mission is to educate and empower female entrepreneurs and small business owners on their best health insurance options. When she's not playing with her son or creating educational content for social media, you can find Dr. Noor curled up in bed with a book. So without further ado, EWT welcomes Dr. Noor.
Thank you so much, Greta, for that amazing introduction. I'm blushing already before we start. I'm so honored to be here today, guys. For those of you who are just joining in and missed that amazing introduction, again, I'm Dr. Noor, originally from New York City, like many of you. I graduated from Bronx Science, so shout out to anyone else in the audience who are from Bronx Science. Currently living in Tampa, Florida, which is where I'm going to talk to you guys today. And we're going to have such a great discussion. I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun because it's going to be really interactive. So throughout the talk today, I'll be addressing a lot of important issues that we all have as grown women and we sometimes don't get to voice or talk about. So one of the assets of or factors of empowerment, women's empowerment, is being given a platform to voice our concerns. So that's what I hope to do today. It's not going to be just an hour of me talking, guys. We're going to talk about a lot of important things, and I'm going to allow you guys a platform to voice some of those things that you and I are all going through, but we don't always have the opportunity to talk about, right? And first, I'd like to just, give honor to this team, this incredible EWT team, for organizing this event, and of course giving me this platform to reach out to everyone. So if you're in the audience and just tuning in, if you're a grown woman and you know a grown woman, if it's your mom, your best friend, your sister, your niece, what we're going to talk about today, it's faced not just by you guys, by a lot of people as well. So please share this Zoom link and invite them to join in as well. We're going to talk about a lot of things that they're going to want to join in on. We're going to talk about empowerment, our cultural identity, expectations, culturally and from the workforce. We're going to talk about infertility, my recently published research paper, and talk about why don't we talk about that enough. We're also going to tie in health and wellness and what we can do daily to help impact our overall health and wellness. So we're going to have a lot of fun. If you're just tuning in, thank you so much. And make sure you share the Zoom link with your friends and family so they can have this platform to talk about these important issues as well. So one story that I want to share with you guys, again, honoring this group of incredible women right here, as well as the MTA as a whole. Growing up in New York City, I didn't realize the impact MTA had on my life until I moved down to Florida several years back. I was a grown woman. I was 26 years old, and I didn't know how to drive. And not knowing how to drive in Florida is not a good thing, guys, let me tell you. Because people looked at me like I had three heads and like, are you really an adult? You don't know how to drive? What do you mean? And I'm like, well, you guys must not know the MTA, because if you live in New York City or New Jersey, you don't need to know how to drive. So, I was in a different county at that time, and their system, public transportation system, and they're proud of this, by the way. I had a conversation with someone local. They're like, well, we've got buses here too. They run one every 3 hours. I'm like, every 3 hours? Like, you guys must not know where I'm from and what the MTA is. So I just want to honor you guys again and the impact you have on everyone's life, and for all of your hard work. So thank you so much to everyone. Just want to honor you ladies and the entire MTA as a whole. You impact so many lives. Just want to appreciate your hard work. So today, guys, there's something I want to start off with, and that is, what does it mean to be a woman in transit, to be a mom, and what all of these identities have and the unique challenges that they pose. But before we can identify those unique challenges, we need to first identify, who are you? Who am I? And what does that mean, right? So being a woman, what does being a woman mean? Being a woman in transit, what does that mean? Being a woman in transit who's a mom, what does that mean? Being a wife, all of these adds layers to our unique identity, and each of those layers poses unique challenges, right? So and layer that with the expectations, work expectations and cultural expectations. What does it mean to be a woman in transit who's a mom, who's Latina, right? Or being South Asian, right? Or being a Black woman in 2021, after all these social movements. There's not a conversation that we can have today in this day and age without including, being in a pandemic. How has the pandemic changed you? So I'm throwing a lot of stuff out here, guys, but it's all inclusive. I want you to start thinking about all of these layers that I just mentioned, and think about, how does that contribute to who you are and the challenges that you have to overcome? Because each of these layers has its unique challenges, right? So I'll start off a little bit about myself to get this conversation going. Who am I, right? I'm a woman first. I'm from South Asia. Being from Bangladesh, we have some unique, cultural expectations. Being a professional woman with a medical science background, I have expectations of myself in addition to the expectations that are had of me from my family, my culture. Being a woman in leadership, often it's a very selfless role. Many times I have to put my team's needs first, my son's needs first, right? My family, my in-laws, my parents. But if I don't put myself first, then that doesn't accomplish any of the above, right? I can't get to helping others or putting others first if my needs aren't met first. So all of that really encompasses and comes together. So I want to ask you guys in the audience, the first question that I want to pose to you is, who are you? What are the layers that encompass who you are? And then what are the biggest challenges in relation to being a woman in this position? What is expected of you from your culture, from your role at work, whether it's a leadership position or something else? And how has that shaped your unique challenges? So if you'll help me out with that, let's pose that to the audience. Let's start off with that question. Who are you? Tell me about who you are and what are some of the challenges that you have? And we'll wait for some people to trickle in and answer. If anyone from the leadership team would like to start off with a little about themselves and how their challenges pose who they are, we can talk about that.
Sure. Hi, Dr. Nora. So we actually got one. Cherie says, being an African-American mom with a son in America is challenging. And I'm sure there's many, many women who are sharing the same sentiment. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm not an African American mom in America, so I can't sit here and say like, well, yeah, I understand. I can empathize with your challenges because I cannot, and I don't. You alone know what that's like. So I applaud you for coming forward and sharing that. And if you'd like to share a little bit more about what those challenges are, absolutely. But what I do know is how, the challenges of being a mom in America and the expectations and balancing those expectations. Because yes, being a mom means that putting, your child's needs before all else, right? But if who is taking care of your needs, right? Who is there to ask you what is it that you need for yourself to make sure that you can serve your son's needs? So if you are also facing this challenge, definitely, talk to us in the chat below. What is that unique challenge that you get from being an African American mom with a son in America?
So let's see. Celeste says, a Black woman attorney, mother, and civic leader in my community. Raising a Black son is challenging, and TA has allowed me to be a good attorney and a good mother.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Again, kudos to you and applaud to you for encompassing all of those roles and embracing those challenges. And what I loved is instead of, we're not here to, negative or positive. It's not about complaining. We're just sharing, right? So for you to say that, you had the platform or the opportunity to be a good attorney, to be a good mother, means that you've embraced those challenges, those unique challenges, and learn to do something positive or something good out of it. So definitely applaud you for that. I think we have a few more comments for sharing that in. When you wear multiple hats, one challenge is time, right? We all have only 24 hours in a day. Whether you're just, you're just a mom and taking care of your kid at home, or you're a mom and you're a business owner, or you have a career and you're a wife and you're a mom, it doesn't matter. We all have a limited amount of hours in a day, and we have to learn to manage that time. And I think that's one of the most unique, hardest things to do when you're wearing multiple roles. So if you'd like to read a few more of the chats coming in.
Sure, I'll read a few more. So I put in Sapna here. I put in balancing career, wife, parent, and now a teacher. A few other comments we have got in. As an analyst who is a forecaster and material planner, I'm expected to be very detail oriented. As a community board member, I'm expected to speak for those who may not be able to speak for themselves. There's definitely challenges with that. From Nicole, working in a male-dominated industry where you don't see a lot of women in senior leadership roles. That absolutely brings its challenges, and I know exactly what you mean by that, Nicole. I face it every day too. Yvette, I am a woman, a mother and grandmother, an attorney, and a community organizer culturally West Indian background where success is expected. An expectation carries a heavy weight. From Maria, women balance multiple roles, balance being key again. They are often caretakers. The next comments, the last comment we have got so far, my greatest challenges is being a long distance caregiver. And from Charisse, as a mom of a Black son, incidents can happen with police and in the community. So there is an added layer of pressure. There is a unique balance of assuring my son grew up free with all the opportunities afforded to any citizen, and yet aware of the systematic challenges that we continue to face. That's very profound, very true too. From Chantel, it keeps coming now.
Yeah.
Opening up the floodgates. Greta, did you want to read from Chantel onwards?
Sure. It says, so someone said, my other challenge is keeping up with fast-paced growing technology in the EMD division. So that's definitely something we're seeing now with the onset of work from home. Let's see, Divya says, career woman, wife, twin mom, office life, and telecommuting. Let's see. Tracy, wife, mother of 2 kids in middle school and elementary, poses challenges in work-life balances. Wow. So they're going to keep coming in. This is
Okay.
amazing,
Let's
lady.
take a pause and address some of that. Thank you guys so much for sharing. This is incredible. I'm so happy. So if you guys are just joining in, we are talking about who are you, identifying first who you are and the layers that make you unique. And of course, then the unique set of challenges that come across from all of those roles. And as women, I think it's really different. So the first one I want to talk about is being a woman in a male dominated society, having that pressure or that expectation to prove yourself. And I want to link this back to, there's something that I'm working on this year where it's an article series on my website where I highlight one professional woman each month. And I ask all of them this question: what does being a woman, or how does being a woman factor in to who you are? And one response that I received was, well, I don't see myself as a woman. I'm just a person, I'm just a business owner, or I'm just an, entrepreneur doing what I do. But I disagree with that. I think if you don't, encompass being a woman as a unique layer, you're taking away from a lot, you're taking so much away, because we all know what that means. So, personally as well, working also in a male dominated society or environment, there's a pressure to constantly prove yourself. It actually hasn't been that much time. It's only been just a few decades where women are allowed a seat at the table. So there's still some males who are just still coming around to the fact that, hey, we just because we're a different gender, we actually are the same, if not more, in terms of our viewpoints, what we have to contribute. So I think just historically, time has not caught up to that. So we as women feel that we have to prove ourselves to kind of meet that bar, and men have to kind of come down and meet us like, hey, okay, this is my equal. This is not someone who previously used to be this, primarily a homemaker role, and now has a seat at the table. We have a ways to go, guys. We have a ways to go until we can equal that leveling field. And I think just time alone has a lot to do with that. So I can empathize with that. Thank you for sharing. There's something else another mom shared about having a black son, raising a black son, and running into problems with authority. My son just turned 1 year old, so I have not personally experienced that yet, and maybe I never will, because I'm not a black mom, But what can we? Just opening up the conversation, just saying that, hey, this matters. Like, being a black mom with a black son is different than being a white mom with a white son. You don't have the challenges that I do. You're not facing, these hard conversations that I have to have with my son. So thank you for sharing that and being honest and coming forth. Someone mentioned twin mom, and it makes me laugh every time I think that, because my husband and I were just like always going back and forth, like, do we want more kids? Do you want to do this again? Because we're struggling to just handle one. So my question is to the mom of the twin moms: how do you do it? Can you teach me some hacks and tricks on how to be a twin mom and of course have all of those roles as well? Someone else mentioned telecommuting. And I remember I posted, I'm very active on social media, and I do a lot of podcasting and speaking at events. And someone, one of my episodes released, and I said, hey, listen to this on your morning commute, new podcast released or something, right? And someone said, what morning commute? And you're right, we don't have a morning commute anymore, because our commute is from our bed and rolling over to our desk. And most times we're trying not to keep our Zoom video on, so people see we're still in our pajamas and just rolled out of bed into this meeting. So that is a challenge too, because now there's no delineation. We're not separating our work and life, and we're ending up working more than ever. That commute that we had once before, to get in the mindset of, all right, I'm going into work, to stop thinking about family and start thinking about your work inbox. We don't have that opportunity to do that anymore. So yes, that is actually a challenge, not a convenience. We had a lot more comments come in, so if you want to talk about some of that.
Sure. So actually there was one that came in from Chantel: special needs moms. We see you, we support you. You are super women. Let's see, a challenge also, Nicole says, we take care of work, family, and others, but we forget to take care of ourselves. In a day and age of work from home.
yes, thank you so much for bringing that. And I'd like to share a quote now, which should kind of lead into our next segment because we have so much activity going on. I want to make sure I touch on all the points I'd like to today. And this, I'm going to take a deep breath, guys. Take a deep breath, and I'm going to put something deep inside your heads. Think about this. We expect women to work like they don't have children and raise children as if women don't work. All right, I'm going to say that one more time, and I'll put it in the chat as well. We expect women to work like they don't have children and raise children as if women don't work. I want you guys to think about that, whether you're a man or a woman watching this. What do you think of that? I'd really like to know your thoughts on this. And something that I'd like to say to introduce this quote is I'm pretty sure I've seen this quote before, but it never registered to me in my head until I became a mother. And I had this additional role, this additional layer of being a professional working woman, a business owner, and a mom. So the quote is, what are your thoughts on this? We expect women to work like they don't have children and raise children as if they don't work. And here's my thoughts on it. So I'll get started. It's all about expectations, right? That's what this quote is about. We have work expectations that say, that's wonderful. You had a baby. You were allowed a break, maternity leave, no matter how little that is inconsequential. It's never enough, by the way, ladies. And so now you're back to work and your work expectations are the same. But I'm a different person now. I'm a mom now. You know, I have an entire person to care for who takes up 24 hours of my day. Even when my kid is asleep, that kid is my responsibility, right? So that responsibility never goes away. I'm a different person now. So should my work expectations be the same? But if we're talking about equality, why shouldn't they be the same? You know, so what if you're a mom now, right? That's another argument. And then the second part of the question says, raise children as if we don't have work. You know, as mothers, when we go to our kids, routine appointments for their milestones, we want to make sure all of those boxes are checked. Is your kid talking on time, walking on time, checking off all those developmental milestones? If it's delayed, well, why not? What are you doing at home? Are you not taking care of your kid? Are you not feeding him properly? Or are you too busy with work? Right? So that's my little elaboration of the quote. I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking about this.
Okay. Maria said, there's unreal pressure on women. We have to be realistic with ourselves. And Greta did say it all goes back to expectation. Sapna says, this expectation sets us up for failure because I am human and I should be able to just be human. Nicole shared that society puts the burden more on us than on our significant others as women. Greta shared, we expect women to work like they don't have children. Oh, she just said this thing, I'm sorry again. Tracy, good point. She says, expectations mean we don't get thanks for it. Dad seems to get so much credit for doing anything around the house or for the kids. I have to chuckle at that because it's true. It's kind of like they get a parade for taking the, making school lunch. Maria said, as a society, we need to look at balance. Celeste, as an older woman, I entered my roles knowing these were the expectation. It wasn't fair then, and it's not fair now. I think because parents want a more balanced life, it's becoming easier because men are demanding this balance more. That's a really key point. So I didn't add my piece in, but I was going to say, I think a lot of it is impacted when it's a male-dominated industry and how it's viewed. So that's a great point, Celeste. Now that it seems like males are demanding it more, that may be, there'll be some equity there. So thank you for that. And lastly, again, Fiona, this is an institutional thinking by men, and we constantly have to prove ourselves, which Dr. Noor mentioned before. We constantly seem like we have to either prove ourselves no matter how many more roles we take on. Sharice said, I honestly get emotional with this quote. Parenting is for two people, but still the exception in 2021 is that women care for all things in the home, let's be okay with asking for and getting help. And lastly, Maria, my husband was modern and ahead of his time, but he got flack from it and moved to another company. So Maria had a supportive husband and he was ahead of his time. So Maria, we need him to teach the next Zoom class. But Dr. Noor, I'm sorry.
No. Thank you so much. Thank you for those comments. And I see males and husbands kind of working into this topic. So I want to take some time to address that. And there's two things I'd like to point out here is defining equality and what is equitable, right? Being equal and equitable are two different things. So what is equality? Equality is being on the same level field, right? Men is, being the same. Equitable means taking into account one's situation, circumstances, different factors and variables, and adjusting the expectations and the roles, right? So two things here. I just want to be clear, if you don't know, being equitable is not the same thing as being equal. So when we talk about these expectations, right, I think, as let's say you're a woman working with another woman, you in a group of women, you're stressed out, you're burnt out, you need a day. Women, if especially if they're mom, they'll understand that. They'll say, okay, you need a day. We get it. We've been through it as well. But if your superiors or your leaders are males, they might not understand that. They might not understand, well, why do you need a day? You're stressed out, I'm stressed out. We do the same job, especially if you're at the same level, right? So that's equality versus, being equitable, just to illustrate a difference there. And men and husbands, I want to bring the pandemic back here. We're in a work from home culture, right? A lot of us here I'm sure 100% of our lives here have changed with the pandemic. And men being home now also understand what it's like to have a full-time role, be a, work from home parent. And I think they're just more attuned to these challenges that women have, these unique layers that they have, and they're more understanding now. So that alone is a tremendous push to move the needle for women, just to have this level of understanding from their male counterpart that this is what our life is really like, and these are the challenges that we have to face. And now you're getting a taste of it because you're home as well, and you're helping kind of carry these burdens. And I think that has a role. Yeah. I think there's an important comment if you'd like to need that from Nancy.
Yeah. So Nancy says women end up sacrificing their careers in order to tend to the needs of their children and family. This has become more evident during the pandemic. Many women had to leave their jobs to homeschool. And I really like this point because it'll take us so nicely into the next block, which is, children. What's going on? Let us know.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Greta. Yeah, absolutely right. Thank you so much, Nancy, for sharing that. And that's so deep, so heavy. Can we guys just stop and think about what Nancy said? I'm going to read it again. Thank you, Greta, but I'll read it again for you guys. Women end up sacrificing their careers in order to tend to the needs of the children and family. This has become more evident during the pandemic because many women had to leave their jobs to homeschool their kids, right? There's many moms that do it all, but there's many times where that's just not possible to have a full-time job and homeschool your kids and take care of your house. Those are three separate full-time roles. And we've seen during the pandemic, women had to get, and I know them personally as well, women who just started their own business, but eventually had to shut down, women who had to leave their jobs to homeschool because who else is going to teach their children? Who else is going to take care of their kids? Because everybody's home. So the next section I'd like to talk about, and before I go in, thank you again, all the people that are here today. If you're just joining us, my name is Dr. Noor, and we are talking about a lot of important topics today. The next topic we're going to talk about is infertility. So if you're a grown woman and you have a mom, a sister, a friend, your niece who has experienced this or know of someone, please share the Zoom link with them and ask them to join in on this conversation, because we're having a very interactive chat today where we take a lot of questions from the audience and we give voice to some of very important topics that are just not discussed. So the next topic we want to talk about is reproductive health and children. And the first thing I want to point out is women are not defined by their reproductive capabilities. Okay, guys, we are not defined by our reproductive capabilities. It's okay to do whatever you choose. If you want to build a family, wonderful. If you want to be single, wonderful. If you want to do neither, wonderful. And that's perfectly okay. Okay. So I want to start off by setting the stage that whatever your decision is, it's okay. And we're here to support you. But what if, you're struggling? What if you're struggling to do any of the above? What are your resources, your choices, your options? So that's some of the stuff that I'd like to talk about in this section today. And I want to talk about who you are. In last previous segment we talked about who you are, your unique identity, and the unique challenges that it poses. Here I'd like to talk about your environment, where you are, who you're surrounded by. So the environmental factors such as where you live, who is in your network, how much money you make, what job you do, your socioeconomic level, all of these can affect your decision to have a family or be single, as well as your perspective to life, your perspective that helps shape that decision. And your fertility has a lot to do with that. So I'm going to start off by giving a little background on this topic by, talking a little bit about this research paper that I recently published. In December this past year. And this research was born from my time in grad school I went to University of South Florida. And this was a time where my husband and I were trying to get pregnant, to have children. And I was struggling and I was going through school. I had a full-time job. I was in a master's program. I was struggling with pregnancy. Of course, being a South Asian woman, it has a lot to do with cultural expectations as well. So during my time in school, we were doing a project about, women's reproductive health or whatever. And it was during that struggle, what I realized is in university or in school, there's no resources for women who are struggling to get pregnant. In fact, the only sexual health and reproductive resources available still to this day is pregnancy prevention. And just like condoms, condoms is equal to sexual health in a lot of university campuses. So nowadays, with more older women seeking higher education, maybe you focused on your career for a little bit and now you want to go back to school and earn a higher degree. That's cool. That's totally fine. But you being in your late 20s is not the same as you being in your early 20s. Maybe now you want to actually have a family, not trying to prevent pregnancy, right? So as time is evolving, needs of women are changing because more and more older women are seeking higher education, and that changes the landscape entirely, guys, right? So what I learned going, through my situation is there's a big lack of reproductive resources in university campuses, and that's what my paper is about. And we found through researching the top AAU schools across the states, there's less than a handful of states who offer infertility resources. Everything else is just free condoms, don't have a baby. But that's not what I'm trying to do here, right? If you're an older woman, that's not what you're trying to do. So I want to define true family planning. Family planning is not just condoms and abstinence. True family planning, especially now, is really about taking into consideration all of your factors and what that means in terms of a decision outcome for you. And I struggled with this a lot, and I just found out that my childhood best friend is also struggling with it, and we had no idea. So research proves and personal experience proves that this is a problem. This is a struggle that many, many women in this day and age have, but we have no idea because we're just not talking about it. So I see some comments coming in, but if you have struggled with getting pregnant or being infertile, subfertility, infertility, we'll talk a little bit about the definition in a bit. If you know someone who struggled to have a baby and some of their challenges, drop a comment or a personal story in the chat below and we'll address it. And there's one thing I'd like to point out, which is so key and so fundamental. And I think many people, just this one thing can be a game changer for them. And that is the definition of infertility. Okay. And here's why. So I'll first say the definition. The definition of infertility is not being able to conceive or get pregnant after 1 year or longer of unprotected intercourse. Why is this so important? I'll repeat it again. Infertility is defined as the inability to conceive after 1 year of unprotected intercourse. The reason why this is so important, guys, and when I struggled through it, because I'm a medical doctor and I have that background, as soon as I hit the 1 year mark and I knew that I'm struggling and I met the definition for infertility, I went and sought care to my OBGYN because I knew that I need to get started. But what if you don't know the definition of infertility? You might go earlier and say, well, I'm struggling and it's only been a few months. Your doctor's going to send you right back home and say, keep trying. It hasn't been a year yet. We can't call you infertile, so we can't treat you. Even though you as a woman, you might know, hey, something's not right here. I know that something's wrong here. You're just going to get sent home and say, keep trying until it's been 1 year. And on the other side, if you don't know the definition of infertility, you might be trying for more than a year, for 2 years, 3 years, before something clicks and says, maybe I'm infertile or maybe something's wrong, before you actually seek care. And by that time, so much time has passed, your options may be different. So had you known that definition, maybe you would have sought care earlier. Maybe you would have gotten started on your family planning earlier. So I'd like to talk, what are your thoughts on that definition? Let's hear some comments about all that.
So Celeste says we tend to suffer in silence when we struggle with reproductive issues. It's something we don't talk about openly with friends or family. So Nicole says, there are no services at my school for the adult student population who are trying to have kids. Maria has a very good point. It's also a huge monetary cost. It's not usually covered by insurance. So I know I've heard that many times too, right? You have to think about it. Let's see. The negative stigma from culture and society made it a taboo topic, but I'm glad it's being brought to the forefront now to be talked about. So important, time is of the essence, and it depends how old you are, because Maria says, because if you're 33, then 6 months is a long time. So how long do you wait, right? A year at 33, a year at 23? Let's see. Sapna says, I think there's so much stigma just around the term infertile. Yvette says, there's such a stigma and it truly psychologically impacts women. As women, we are caregivers, and not being able to conceive has so many other physical and emotional ramifications. Oh, wow. These are really, really good. They're coming in. I'll say one more. Cherie says there's a big issue with MTA expectations, a lack of balance with women leaders. So it equals the lack of women's issues being part of the conversation. For example, do we pay for infertility treatments? Another example is women who are pregnant in conditions that don't support a safe pregnancy. Oh, wow. There's so many. Now they're coming in real fast. So Manjinder, excuse me if I didn't say your name right, but they ask, how do you get help before the 1 year mark? Or is that just not possible?
Great questions, great comments, guys. I'll take a moment to answer some of them, and maybe I'll go backwards. So thank you, Majinder, for your question. And I think someone else mentioned being 33 and waiting, and 23. So the answer to that is, medically, the definition for infertility is 1 year. So if it's been less than 1 year and you're 23 or 33, it doesn't matter. You're not going to be labeled as infertile. You're not going to be diagnosed, rather, and you're not going to be able to get treated for infertility. So if you as a woman, think that maybe you might be infertile, or think you might be, you can go to your OBGYN before the 1 year mark and have a conversation, but they're still going to go tell you to go back and try, or come back after a year of unprotected intercourse. So it doesn't matter how old you are, what stage you are. If you know for a fact you're infertile, like I knew for a fact, I still had to wait the 1 year mark before I could get my diagnosis and start getting on treatments. So let's talk about treatments, right? It's not cheap, guys. And if you don't have a health insurance policy that supports that, you're pretty much on your own. I work in health insurance, and I do a lot of education around it to help people make more informed decisions. And I always say, I'm not here to be the single woman person who's going to do healthcare reform in America. I cannot single-handedly change our system, but I do understand our systems at a national, international, and at a scientific level, right? So having this understanding alone, allows me or qualifies me to dish out this advice that, hey, this is what our system is, and you being in the situation that you are, this is going to be your best bet to not circumvent the system, but really work the system to your advantage, so you come out on top. So that's my role professionally now as a health insurance advisor. So when it comes to infertility, and this is something I went through myself, we realized like, okay, well, if I'm infertile or subfertile, can't get pregnant on my own, I'm going to have to go through the next steps, which is possibly IVF. So now you're going from, trying unprotected intercourse with your partner, which costs nothing, to IVF, which costs tens of thousands of dollars. There's no like middle ground or spike up, well, let's try this and let's try this and let's try this. It's not working. We can't get pregnant. Now we need $50,000 to even attempt to have a baby. And it's difficult, guys. I'm not here to say that there's an answer. It's really difficult, but we're talking about it here to hopefully start the conversations for those in power who can enact this change, for big health insurance companies to say, yes, we will give more coverage for infertility treatments, or for professional organizations like the Metropolitan Transit Authority to say, yes, we are going to have this program where we empower our older generation, employees with these set of infertility resources, whether that's a support community, that's a stipend for help with those costs, for infertility costs of treatment, or just more insurance coverage, to cover cost of infertility, or to help cover, let's start somewhere, guys. We're going from nothing to like a big cost. Let's start somewhere and start the conversation, which is what I hope that we can all do. And I want to empower you guys to do. Someone mentioned to the world suffering in silence. And I hope to the EWT team, I hope you guys can link or share my paper after, this talk, whenever we post it, because the title of my paper is Suffering in Silence, Graduate Student Infertility. And I noticed this recurring theme coming over and over again, because that is what we feel like as women. We are suffering, and we're suffering in silence. And I want to bring about another a cultural aspect here. It's a taboo topic. There's a big stigma associated with it. And I'm here, and I can share my personal experience as a South Asian woman. I got it, guys. I got it from all angles, from family members who are well educated and knew the situation, and who knew me, my struggles, from everywhere. And I thought to myself, well, thank you guys for making me feel bad, but don't you think I feel bad as a woman struggling to have, children? Shouldn't I feel more supported, instead of made to feel worse? So your cultural background has a lot to do with it if you're going through this struggle. So if you're someone, or someone going through this, I just want to extend my empathy to you, and know that if you want to talk or just vent, we're here for each other. That's what having these conversations are for. And the importance and value of it is just to raise your hand and say, hey, I went through it. I know someone who's gone through it. If you want to talk about it, talk to me, because I'm here to listen. Sometimes that alone is just empowering in itself, just having someone to listen. I'm not asking you to get me a health insurance plan that's going to cover my infertility costs. I'm not asking you to pay for this. I'm just asking you to empathize and listen to this journey that I'm going through. I think we have a few more comments that came in.
Yeah, so Nancy puts in, let's see, hold on 1 second. I have found that women who are struggling with infertility will not seek support from their friends and family, especially minorities. She says she didn't. Know that you are not alone. Ask for help and learn about your options, and don't give up. She was given 5% odds for success, and she had a healthy baby at 43. So congratulations. Let's see. Yes, there's a loss every month. They need support. Let's see. Nick Gravney says, sounds like women should be at the table when insurance plans are evaluated at the organizational top level. And Yvette says, also important is to balance the emotional aspects, as she has a close friend who has tried continuously with IVF without success, and she's truly suffering and heartbroken. And she tries to be a friend. She tries to be there as her friend in this realm. So let's see. And okay. So it seems like a lot of people are saying, yep, oh, they're saying, thank you for being so vulnerable, Dr. Noor, and sharing your story, because that is what's important, right? It's coming to the forefront, it's coming to the table and realizing your best friend is going through the same thing and you don't even talk to each other. You don't even know, because there's a stigma of shame. I know that, across cultures, because of expectations, as we said. So now, what can you tell us, where are support groups? How do we go about opening up, and how do we mentally, physically, psychologically take care of ourselves when we're going through something so empowering, but also that impacts us?
Yeah. Thank you, Greta. I'll answer that question along with one of the comments that you mentioned, and I'll answer it together. I remember when I was going through or struggling to get pregnant, that period of infertility, everything in my head was about not being able to have a kid. The shame, the vulnerability, the sense of failure as a woman, not being able to conceive. That is all I thought about, and it was like carrying this cloud of shame in my head for everything that I did. But thankfully, when I was able to conceive and have my son naturally, thank goodness, I forgot all of that. Like, I don't even remember now what that felt like, because I'm so consumed with being happy and having my son. So the reason I'm pointing this out is, when you are going through it, it is such a cloud. It's such a big, it consumes you. It consumes your life. So the first step is really just telling someone that I am going through this. And you never know, they might be going through it too, or they might know someone who's going through it. So even though I don't have like an established platform that I can say, hey, ladies going through this, go here. My suggestion, to answer Greta's question, is just tell your friend or the person next to you that I'm going through this and it hurts. Even if they're not going through it and they don't empathize it, I promise you, they're going to know someone who has gone through it or who is going through it. That is what my research paper has shown, and personal experience has shown. There's so many women who are going through it. We just don't know about them. And the best way to know about them is just to tell someone, the person next to you, and you'll find someone. I guarantee you'll find someone. And that will help, because they're feeling the same thing you are feeling. They have gone through it, or they understand what you're going through, what that shame is, that expectation is, and how that can translate to your day-to-day life. They'll understand. And I want to bring up insurance here again, because again, it's my industry, and someone brought up a very, very good point, which is when an employer is considering a benefits package or insurance package for their employees, it's so important to take into account, who are those employees? If you're offering health insurance to a group of exclusively women or mostly women, and that health insurance package doesn't have any maternity coverage or infertility coverage, no, how is that useful, or how is that beneficial? I recently just talked to someone on a LinkedIn condition, and they're a small group. It's a group less than 15. And the insurance that they provide is pretty much like catastrophic only. And it doesn't benefit no one in that company likes it. So you have 15 people who the employer is paying insurance for, but none of those 15 people use that insurance or even like it. And they're resentful. So knowing that's just so key, understanding this employer-employee relationship and benefits is who you are offering the benefits for, and taking into account what their needs are. So doing a needs analysis before, investing that money. We have a few more comments, I think.
Okay, so let's see. Resolve and excellent support groups and advice. And Yvette says, Dr. Noor, these pearls of wisdom are beneficial to all. We implore that you share, as there are others going through the same or have experience in this realm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So guys, I know we're running out of time and we had such great conversations today. And I want to just, remind everyone this whole series that the EWT has put together for you guys. It is about women and wellness. So I want to tie it back to health and wellness. And we covered a lot of deep and heavy topics today. And I thank you guys so much for contributing, for being active and interactive in this talk today. And I'd like to sign off by sharing some tips that I want to share with you guys that I do personally, really just to take care of both your mental and physical health. And the tips are, they come from personal experience, and I'll talk a little bit about them and why I recommend them. So today I'm going to share with you tips for your physical health and tips for your mental health. And the physical health, and being from an insurance background, is to take advantage of your screenings. And that's your annual physical, your mammogram, your pap smear. Preventive care is often, for most insurance plans, covered at no cost, so it doesn't cost you a thing. Or some insurance companies more and more are now rewarding you for doing these screenings, and they're really, really important. So if you haven't taken advantage of your insurance benefits for your annual physical, your mammogram or pap smear, this is me giving you a reminder to go ahead and please do that. Get it done for 2021. Just knowing, as we talked about in the first segment of the show, identifying has a lot to do with problem solving, right? So just knowing where you are, what your health status is going to be very key to preventing chronic illnesses, to preventing, cancers, many things. So take advantage of that. Get your annual physical done. If you're watching this, schedule it now for 2021. Now I'm going to talk about 3 tips that I want to suggest to you for taking care of mental health. And these are things that I try to do every day. And as we know, being a mom, being a business owner, having a career, it's hard. It's really, really hard to take care of ourselves. So I'll share with you how I try to take care of myself, just to give some inspiration, because I know a lot of moms are just like, it's just impossible. Like, I cannot. And there are days that I'm like that too, guys. There are days where I'm just like, I cannot. And that's okay. That's okay. But here are some things. Here are some tips. The first tip is called this app called Headspace. And there's actually a participant in this chat who introduced me to Headspace. You might even have a corporate benefit where you get a discount. If not, there's a free version of this app by Andy Puttycombe. And Headspace, it's a type of guided meditation that allows you to just recenter yourself and give you headspace. And headspace allows you to think creatively, to accomplish your tasks, and to have a positive outlook on your day. So if you don't have this app, go download it and try to do even 1 to 5 minutes of headspace every morning before you start your day. I promise you it will change your day. Go ahead and give that a try, and get back to me with an email or a text or something and let me know how you like it. The second tip I have for you guys is a journal, a gratitude journal, not just any journal. I'm sure you've heard or read that journaling is really good, but what does that really mean? If you're not used to carrying around a notepad and writing, who does nowadays? No one has a journal. So for me, when someone told me like, oh, you should journal, I'm like, okay, whatever that means. But there's a product that I got that really helped me, and that's the 5-minute journal. I think you can buy it on Amazon. It's by this company called Intelligent Change, and I have a code I can share if you guys are really interested. But it's basically an exercise that you do for 5 minutes every morning and 5 minutes before you go to bed. So I recommend you keep this journal by your bedside, and it forces you to think about the positive things you are grateful for in your life. How many of you wake up in the morning thinking about, check your inbox, check your emails? Oh my God, before I even sat at my desk, I've got 10 emails waiting for me that I have to respond. Or, oh shit, I forgot to do this last night. Let me just add this to my to-do list. And before you brush your teeth, you're already thinking about all the stuff you have to do at work, right? I know you guys have gone through this. So what the 5-minute journal asks that you do is think about 3 things that you are grateful for. So it forces you to shift your mindset to, instead of here are the things that I have to do and my life sucks because blah, blah, blah. It's, well, my life is wonderful because I just woke up from a 12-hour rested sleep because I love my mattress. It is so good. My life is wonderful because I don't have to drive to work this morning. I'm working from home and I can enjoy a cup of coffee before I can sit down to work. I love my life because my husband made me a cup of coffee this morning before I have to sit down and do all of these things. So think about that. It's the same person with, 10 emails waiting in the inbox and blah, blah, blah. But now you're thinking about all the good things in your life. And at the end of the day, the 5-minute journal forces you to think about what are the good things that happened to you today. So yes, you had a horrible day at work, but you know what? You also got to spend half an hour with your kid, playing catch in your backyard. It was a shitty day, but you actually got to go for a drive and take a break. So it really helps reframe your mind to the good things that happened, and it is life changing too, guys. So 5-minute journal. Tip number 3, and this is a personal tip. If you know me, I carry a water bottle everywhere, and this can fall under both mental or physical health, but we are underhydrated. I don't care how much you tell me you drink a lot of water, you're underhydrated. If you're not peeing clear every 30 minutes, you're underhydrated. And my solution to that is having a water bottle really attached to my hip. And you can ask my husband how annoying it is, but I've got pretty much a water bottle in every single room, and I make sure that it's filled up to the top. And get a good one, guys. Here's one that I love. It's really good. It's called Hydrocell. If you need a recommendation, get this water bottle. It's really good. It holds a lot of water, so you don't have to keep, filling it up, and it keeps it really cool, so you'll enjoy drinking water. And a tip that I do for myself is every time I have to pee, I drink water before I have to pee as a reminder. So if you're not used to drinking enough water, it's a hard habit to set, right? But think about that association. I have to pee, but let me drink some more water before I have to pee. It's a really easy way to set a new habit that you might not have. So those are my tips. Let me know what you guys think. And my question for you is, what does being healthy mean to you? And can you please share some of your tips, like I have shared, how you take care of your mental and physical health?
Well, we already have a few answers to that. Let's see. Hold on. Just want to go. I know someone also mentioned that they started to journal. Nicole said, I journal in my planner. I have a planner that keeps me organized, both short and long term, where I can jot down my goals, my thoughts, my emotions, and just reflect. Celeste cracked up and said, 12 hours never, because you said 12 hours of sleep. So we told Celeste that it's not impossible, and we're gonna touch base with Celeste and make sure she gets those 12 hours in. Chantel and a few others said they'll definitely do the 5-minute journal. Maria said, my wonderful adult girls. And Greta said she's grateful for my best friend, who is my sister. I think the peeing kind of started a trend, but we thank you for your honesty and for just being outright, because I think about it, my doctor always says that, like, if your urination is muddy, or there's an issue, your body should be producing. So I'm glad that you reminded us of that, because sometimes I know I don't drink enough water, and I've done some tricks, but we thank you for that and for sharing that and talking that truth. Paula, thanks you for sharing that reminder. Urination is part of our health. What does being healthy mean to you? So I paint. Oh, Sapna paints to manage her stress. Okay, so she's telling us what she actively does to try to manage stress. I think we always focus on the physical, but we don't put enough on the mental. And I think that's huge, especially as women. I think that mental health is a serious issue that's it doesn't get the focus that is required. And I think as women, and I'm not taking over Dr. Noor, I apologize, but I think as women, there's so much expected of us, and we expect so much of ourselves that, we don't even think about it. And I know I'm guilty of that. And someone said to me, when you get on a plane and they give you the instructions, what did they tell you? They tell you, if the mask drop, put your mask on first before you put on the mask of anyone else. And the person stopped me because they said, you're always doing for everybody else, but if you don't have your oxygen, you dead. Like, you can't even help anyone else. So thank you for that, Sapna. I think that's important. Many people are thanking for the tips. Maria said, being fit and calm, daily challenge, but that is health. Sharice, hiking and being in nature keeps me balanced. Oh, that's great. Surroundings and environment clearly can help both physical and mental health. Gina, at least 30 minutes for yoga, self-care, another great piece of advice, Divya, with her twins, why is 12 hours sleep needed? Is it not 8 to 9 hours? So I don't think, Dr. Noor, you want to answer? I don't think she was saying that 12 hours is needed. That was just someone who was writing in their journal, and they were just quite happy that they had the luxury of getting 12 hours on that day.
I don't know if I personally don't know anyone who gets 12 hours of sleep. That was just an example. If you are lucky enough, make sure you write that in your journal. That's something to be grateful for. Not a lot of people get that.
And Chantel also uses the Calm app. You know, there are multiple apps. She just told you a little bit about the Headspace, but there's a lot of apps out there. There's a lot of apps for fitness, health, mental, drinking water. There's an app that my team uses, my workout team, and it literally shows you how much you drank for the day. And everyone just wanted to, again, thank you for this conversation, Dr. Noor. I think that's what we have.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much. Thank you. If you guys want to learn more about me, definitely check out my website, drnoorhealth.com. I would love to continue this conversation with many people. I just want to leave my doors open, and just know that I'm here to talk too. So everything I've discussed today, I have personal experiences with. So if you want to share, just want to let you guys know, everyone who's listening, I'm here to help support you as well.
You're muted. You're muted, Greta.
So thank you, Dr. Noor, for this great insight and all the information you gave us. And I'm just going to pass it over to our EWT leader, Sharice.
Okay, my closing for this is first, wow. Wow. Much needed conversations, and thank you, Dr. Ali. We certainly are going to post the information in MS Teams so that people can join in and follow you on different social media platforms, and so that we can stay informed and in touch. We want to know from EWT, just tell us in the chat, or of course you all have our email address. If you like this topic, if you like the last 3 topics, we want to know what topics do you want for the rest of the year. Keep us tapped into what you need and what you want. We're hearing you, right? We need more of these conversations and more support for women. We are going to continue to support the 18% in March and throughout the year. EWT exists for you. So don't be shy. Tell us what you want. Tell us what you need. We are here for you. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. And we look forward to seeing you in exactly a week. And your challenge is for next week, invite a man. Because next week is all about hearing, tapping into some health tips and information for MTA men and beyond, right? So men's health is next week. And then our grand finale is on March 30th, where we are celebrating women. And we are looking forward to seeing you for the rest of March. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are with EWT, you know the routine. Stay on tap because we are going to take our photo. We invite you to open up your picture if you'd like to take a photo with us. And then we're going to close this session out. We are ending the recording now. Thank you. See you next week. Remember being young and